Hey, folks, welcome to the live stream here, Effective Remote Work. We're going to chat about simple strategies for maintaining focus while you're working from home today, but we're going to give people a couple minutes to get joined in here. Before we get going on today's topic, I wanted to let you know that we are launching a brand new podcast here at Effective Remote Work, and it's called Remotely Working. If you are a remote worker and you're interested in leveling up your skills with productivity, intentionality, managing your emotional and mental health, as well as your leadership skills, this podcast is for you. I'll have a link in the description below the video here that you can go and sign up to get notified when this podcast goes live. We're planning on launching it in the next couple of weeks. The cool thing is we've got some great guests planned. We've got some good topics that we're going to cover, and I'm really excited to share this with the world, especially right now in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, where we have lots of people who are working remotely, especially for the first time. And that's where we can get really caught up in trying to figure out how to navigate remote work, especially when we're brand new to it. You start to figure things out over time, but when you're first getting into remote work, it can be a little daunting. So we're going to have some Q&A after the topic today. So if you have some questions, put them in the chat box. We'll take a look at them after we get through the topic here. So first things first, let's hit some strategies for how you can focus when you're working from home. Probably the most important thing to do is to create space for yourself. If you have a dedicated office or a dedicated space where you can go close the door, go do that. Closing that door, entering that space gives you a place where you're saying to your brain, hey, this is my workspace. This is my work time. Leaving the door open can often leave you open to interruptions as well. And so being able to go into a place to close the door really helps. However, not everyone has an office where they can go close the door. I've been in that situation in the past. So if you don't, one of the things you can use are things like headphones. You can put some headphones on, put some nice music that you want to listen to. Not everybody can listen to music with lyrics. So I recommend some like ambient electronic music or something like that, or even just some white noise. I'm a big fan of the app Dark Noise on iOS, but there's tons and tons of noise generation apps out there where you can use to block out the noise. Now, what kind of headphones would you use for something like this? Well, the best is obviously a noise canceling set of headphones. If you can do over the ear, that's even better. But just plain headphones, even the ones that come with your phone, will work just as well for this too. It's the whole idea is to just create some level of segmentation between yourself and what is going on in the world around you. Additionally, some things that can really distract you and prevent you from creating space to focus on something is notifications and all this stuff that's going on in the digital world. So I recommend turning off as many notifications as you can, and as well making sure that you have your do not disturb settings turned on your phone and your computer. When you're getting chat messages or email notifications that pop up in the middle of you trying to do something focused, say you're working on a design or development project and you get interrupted from that. The big problem with that is that it can take up to 20 minutes or even 30 minutes sometimes to get refocused to the level of intensity where you were at on that project prior to getting interrupted. If you get interrupted significantly or many times throughout the day when you're working on projects like this, ultimately your productivity will go down, the quality of the work that you're doing will go down. And so it's just better to try to create some space in your day by potentially blocking out some time in the morning or the afternoon and turning off those notifications, turning off chat, closing social media, closing YouTube, and then getting to work. The whole point is to create that space where you can engage in deep work. If you haven't heard of deep work, it originates from Cal Newport, the idea essentially, or the term. And in his book, Deep Work, he basically associates the idea with intensely focusing on something that you want to work on that requires intense thought for a sustained period of time. A lot of people will have a max of about 4 hours of deep work in the day, but not everybody is used to working intensely on one thing for a sustained period of time like that. So if you're brand new to trying to focus like this on something very intently, then one thing you can do is to start in smaller blocks of time. Create 20 minutes for yourself to work on one important thing. And then from there, take a little bit of a break. And if you have some more space to work on it, more energy, willpower, whatnot to work on it, then what you can do is spend another 20 minutes. Focus a lot of times is like a muscle. It's building a habit. And in today's digital world where we live in an essentially an attention-based economy where websites and social media services are trying to pull at us every single day to keep our attention there by showing us new things all the time, it can be very difficult for us to maintain focus on bigger projects or bigger ideas, bigger things for longer periods of time. I know John Mayer, the famous musician, got off Twitter a number of years back for a period of time because he felt like he couldn't think in longer than 180 characters anymore. I mean, he's a songwriter. Part of his job, part of his livelihood is thinking in broader concepts and in more words than 180 characters can hold. So the whole point there is just create that space, pull away from all the digital distractions as much as you can, and close the door, put some headphones on, create some space for yourself to focus. Another big strategy is to focus on clarifying things. One thing I've noticed in the course of my life over the last few years is that when I procrastinate, it often roots because I'm completely unclear on what to do next. So when I'm noticing that I'm procrastinating on doing something important, there's a few different things that I try to do to get myself through that. One of the first things I do is I try to plan every single day out by picking 1 to 3 of my quote unquote most important tasks. If I can nail down 1 to 3 items that I say I need to get these done today, it's a heck of a lot easier for me to be able to focus on those things, crank them out, and just go. And if I'm not clear on any one of those things, like say I need to work on this specific development project, but I'm still procrastinating on it, a lot of times it's because I'm unclear what I need to do next. And so out of that one big thing that I know I need to advance today, I can pick 1 or 2 most important things to do out of that to push that forward. If I'm still unclear after, trying to pick out my most important tasks, if I've got a lot of stuff going on in my head, another simple strategy that I employ is to do a mind sweep. A mind sweep is originates from David Allen's Getting Things Done, and it's basically rooted in the concept that you can get everything out from your head onto paper or somewhere in your system, whether it's on a piece of paper, on a notepad, in a notebook, in a text file, in some note-taking software somewhere. The whole idea is you just take everything that you're thinking about, whether that's thoughts, feelings, emotions, emails you need to send, actions you need to take, something you want to buy, something you want to watch, whatever it is, if it's taking up mental bandwidth for you, then just write it down. Get it out of your head, get it somewhere else, because as you start to get those things out, even more things will start to come out and more things will start to come out. And then you realize, man, I was really like thinking about all these things and trying to retain all of these things over this course of time. And that actually builds up quite a bit of stress for you. I know a lot of times when I'm feeling super stressed, the first thing that I need to do is to do a mind sweep. And so when I do a mind sweep, it helps me clarify what's most important for me. I can look at that list and say, okay, these are a few things that I need to get done today or in the next couple of weeks. And then I can set that list aside or put it in a task manager or whatever I'm using at that point in time to look at the rest of them later. Probably the most important thing you can do, though, to build focus when you're working from home is to build routine. Routine actually builds focus. Like to think of it as training wheels for your mind in some regards. Think of Pavlov's dogs. If you're not familiar with Pavlov's dogs, it's the concept in the psychological study that was done where dogs were, monitored and watched, and a bell was rang, and then they were given food, and they did this repeatedly over time, and then eventually they would ring the bell, and then the food was removed. Well, when the dogs originally were seeing the food, they would salivate. And then eventually, when the food was no longer there and the bell was rung, they would still salivate because there was this response that happened to them. They began to expect that there was going to be food when the bell was rung. When you have quality routines built into your life, and they don't have to be complex, they don't have to be rigid either. It's just the routine, the process of getting your brain and yourself into and out of a work mode, so to say. But when that is there, it can dramatically increase your ability to focus and more easily as well, just simply because you're tuning your brain, you're tuning your routine into saying, okay, this is focus time now, or okay, it's time to be at home and it's time to be done with work for the day. Some simple routines that I have tried to employ include starting my day at the same time and ending at the same time each day. If when 8 o'clock hits in the morning, I try to be working. I have a baby at home right now, and so things are a little bit wobbly with that. It's not super consistent when I'm starting and stopping work, and sometimes it's variable hours during the day. It's one of the wonderful benefits of remote work, but it also creates a lot of variability that you have to manage then too. But if when I start and end my day at the same time, it's really easy for me to get into and out of work mode, and it helps me to focus while I'm in that period of time. Another thing that I do is I try to do the same thing to get going each day. I call these startup routines. You can have a morning routine that does the same thing too. I try to do that at the beginning of my workday, but some people have routines in the morning when they get out of bed where they do the same order of things each day. That can be really helpful, such as getting up, brushing your teeth, making some coffee, doing some exercise, planning your day, and then getting to work. Just this simple order of tasks can help get you in the right place and in the right mindset for focusing when you're working at home. Not having routines can provide some of the same, some of the opposite issues anyway. You can be a little less focused, a little bit less on point, but again, keep them simple for yourself. Not everybody needs to have super complex and robust developed routines where you stick to them to the T every single day. But just having a light sense of what comes next really helps you prepare for what's coming next. It just keeps your mind in the right place. Another thing too is that routines are essentially stacks of habits. And if you're interested in diving more into the science and the know-how behind building more habits, an excellent resource for that is Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. It's very high quality, very well researched. Pick that book up, read it. Fantastic resource. Definitely recommend it if you want to go in deeper to building more habits and routines. Lastly, if you're watching this during the COVID-19 pandemic, one thing to keep in mind is that things are very different right now. Remote work is not looking the same as it usually does. There's a lot more stress and tension. And additionally, there's just so much stuff going on, so much uncertainty that it's causing a lot of people to be fairly unproductive in this season. And while it's good to try to focus and build good habits, definitely don't put too much pressure on yourself in this season to be optimally productive or, tip top shape with all of that and your habits and routines and all that fun stuff that happens with productivity. If you're having a hard day, spend some time to take care of yourself. If you're having a difficult time, make sure, you do things like go for a walk or talk to a friend. If you're not working on something and if you have the liberty to be able to say, I'm going to take an hour and go do something else, go do that. Don't worry about focusing so much because you have to take care of yourself. That is it for the topic today. If you have any questions, be sure to post them in the chat. While people are posting questions and feedback in the chat, just a reminder that we are, if you didn't catch it earlier, we are launching a brand new podcast here at Effective Remote Work called Remotely Working. If you are someone who is a remote worker and you want to level up your skills with productivity, intentionality, leadership, and managing your mental and emotional health, by all means, sign up in the link below in the description at effectiveremotework.com/remotely working to get notified when that podcast goes live. Definitely would love to have you join us on that podcast, and thanks for showing up on this live stream today. All right, thanks everybody. I think we're going to sign off. I don't see any questions there, but thanks for joining today. I really appreciate it.